call on our power, the ancient of this. They stolen our heritage and took our way.
Give me a child until it's 7 and I will show you the man.
Show me the dumb child. Bad child. Ugly child.
Dumb child.
What skin color do you want? Do you remember which one you said?
Yeah, that one.
Which one?
This one.
Why is she the dumb child?
Because she looks black.
Okay, why is she the dumb child?
Because she has black skin.
And why is she the ugly child?
Because she's blind.
Show me the child who has a skin color we don't want.
That part of the brain looks for the repetitive content. The reason our subconscious is designed to do that is because what's most repetitive reflects what the bigger group is saying, thinking, and doing. And everybody in psychology knows this is the basis of mind control. I'm going to go into your TV shows, your movies, and I'm going to control the repetitive content.
You know, hip-hop changing from positive to negative was not a consequence of history. It had everything to do with the fact that there are people in this particular society who wants to see us exactly where we are. Young Buck, on his album, he has a song on his album that talks about police terrorism. The label said absolutely not. Jimmy Iovine said absolutely not. You cannot put that record on the album because it might create an atmosphere that might put police officers' lives in danger. Right. So they took the record off, but they let him keep the other 14 songs on the album that talked about killing black youth.
Greetings, family. I mean, most people don't even realize we're in a silent war. Like, the media is shaping the way we see ourselves, the way we think about ourselves, the way others think about us. Because if you control the images and what people see and control the subconscious mind, you control them. Now, I want you to understand that my Bible culture was created to promote righteousness through self-development. By looking within, Luke 17 says when the Pharisees came to Yeshua and asked him, where is the kingdom going to come from? He said, the kingdom of heaven is within. So that's why our focus is on self-development, on the pure of heart, on righteousness.
And the power of images, the role that images play on our mind, on the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Most people don't realize that images have a profound effect on how you see yourself and how you see the world. And it's by design why when you look in the media, you look on the music videos, you look on the movies, that the images that you see predominantly, majority, a vast amount of time are negative images, especially when it comes to people who look like us. We see ourselves, our images depicted in a very negative way, in a very just criminalized type of way, in a way that is not upright, it's not noble, it's not of value. And that's by design. Because those who have put together the system, who are behind the scenes, that some call even the hidden hand, they understand that images are vital when it comes to controlling. To have power, control, and domination over people, you have to control the images that they see. It's paramount. So we got to question ourselves, or we got to ask the question, what images do we see consistently, especially when it comes to people who look like us? And is that by design? Just some things for you to think about.
Because we do live in a system that promotes unhealthy and self-destructive behaviors. And that is the design, to promote self-hate, mistrust, individualism, materialism, ignorance, conflict escalation, self-destructive behaviors, and we run with it. Images are very powerful, especially for young children. There was one instance working as a youth leader and a youth educator. We were in a Bible study, and these are children 7 and under. And we were playing a charades game. Now, mind you, this child was raised being told that Yeshua was black. So when playing the charades game, he was supposed to reenact Yeshua. That was his job. So he went up on the stage and he started doing his act, and he started going like this. And, you know, everybody was confused. No one could guess what he was doing. And they asked him at the end, because no one could guess it, time ran out. And they're like, well, who is that? And he's like, that's Jesus, Yeshua. And everybody was like, what do you mean? What were you doing? And that was his long blonde hair. And it was at that moment, when I realized that
Got him.
you can tell these young people what it is. You can tell them the truth. But daily, as they see these images repeatedly, it goes into the subconscious mind. It gets embedded. And that's what they start to believe. When they hear the name, they automatically see that image pop up in their mind. And that's power. That you can use to control a lot, because as we're going to get into, images, especially emotionally charged images, affect biased behavior.
I wanna play something for you right now from Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. So listen to what she's gonna say concerning what Marlon just touched on.
The system gave us the image of God as a white man. See, when people are confronted, they will say, well, that doesn't make any difference. Jesus could not have been from the part of the world around Egypt and been a white person. That's just impossible. Billy Graham even says Jesus could not have been white. You see, but this is what for hundreds of years black people have been programmed to look at a white man and say, this is the Son of God. That means God has to be a white man. And we have no idea how profound that thought system is in the middle of people's brain computers when people are black.
Welcome back. What are your thoughts on what she said in connection to what Marlon said? And this is coming from the doctor now, the great Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. Do you see the connection? It's extremely important that you see the connection and the role that images play on forming the mind, on embedding these negative seeds into the subconscious.
So I want to talk about emotionally charged images. So I read this Stanford study, Stanford University, and they were connecting or making the connection between emotions and imagery. And I'll give you an example. Say you're at work and you're leaving work. So let's say you go down to the parking lot from your work and you see someone getting robbed. Now, every time you enter a parking lot, that image is going to spark an emotion for you. You're going to feel anxiety. You're going to feel fear. There may not be anybody there. It may even be a different parking lot. But now that image of the parking lot is associated with that emotion. It may not be that you're going to get robbed. It may not be that you ever see someone else get robbed. But now it's connected. And no matter what parking lot you go to, if you ever go to another basement parking lot, you're going to feel that emotion. The study also spoke about biased behavior when those images are connected to an emotion, and specifically about racially biased behavior. And if we do look at the media and we see black people and what's associated with them in the media, whether it be music, movies, etc., just like Wise Intelligent was talking about, there is a connection on the masses and how they behave. Two of the most effective emotionally charged images I notice in the media, in our movies and such, are one, the association of black people with slavery.
Mm-hmm.
And they can't stop giving us movies about slavery. Now they'll say that, you know, the movies are being consumed, people are watching, people are paying, so they're going to continue creating those movies. But it goes deeper than that. You see, by continually seeing this dynamic,
And any,
it's up.
sorry.
Wait for it. It's not good. I'm gonna give it to you in a second.
No, it's okay.
I'm gonna give it to you in a second.
Go,
I'm gonna give it to
go.
you.
Keep going.
You made that one point. I'm gonna give it to you. So, by continually seeing that association, first of all, you're seeing the power dynamics. I watched a video of a woman speaking and saying, I'd never farm. Are you crazy? That's for slaves.
Wow.
No word of a lie. Listen.
Wow.
The land holds the power. In this colonial history that we've seen, it was all about land. It was all about the resources, exploiting the resources, and producing from those resources. By associating slavery with land, we don't want anything to do with it. It's a negative emotion. But that's where the power came from. That's why they still control the resources. So now when we're out here today and we're on the streets and we see a black man, you automatically associate the negative, the mistrust, the self-hate.
I was fighting within myself not to cut Marlon off, because we usually do this. We go back and forth, and it's like normal for us. But when you brought up the whole, it's like every second, every other month or so, we get a slavery movie over and over and over again. Let me make something very clear for everyone out there. The narrative that we have been given concerning slavery or the transatlantic slave trade is not right and exact. It's not historically accurate. Okay? That's for one. We can talk another time and go in more detail concerning that. But understand, they're doing that. They're perpetually showing you these images, these negative, very helpless, low vibrational, in a negative, despicable, degraded state, constantly over and over in an inferior position over and over for the purpose of mind control. Social engineering. They want to put that seed deeply into your subconscious mind and to make sure that it germinates. Because one, the images that you will be seeing, one, are already emotionally charged images. They're very emotionally charged. You're like seeing a man getting whipped, you know, getting just so-called buck broken. And then, not only that, you're seeing it over and over and over to the point that it becomes the norm. Like so-called black people, especially in the Western world, your history began with slavery. That's not true. Like I said, it's done for social engineering purposes to encode this type of outlook or belief into your subconscious, and then you're going to navigate or move with that intention, believing like, yeah, my origin story, especially say in the Western world, in the Americas, began with slavery. It's by design. They understand the role that images play, especially when it comes to programming the mind. They are experts, they are masters. Who are the they? Some people say, who are the they? Those who are behind the scenes, those who own and control the various media outlets, those who fund, who fund all the various think tanks, those who fund these various media corporations, them. We could get more deeper into exactly which secret societies and things of that nature. But the point is, just understand that there is a war taking place and happening, and it's not just with bombs and guns, but it's with images. It's with sound.
Images.
It's with words. It's a different type of warfare. It's a warfare that's focused on your mind, your soul, your spirit, and it is by design. They want to make sure that you're in a position of less than or a slave position, and they are in the master position. Remember who I'm talking about. I'm not talking about just the everyday person that you may see out there. I'm talking about those who are especially behind the scenes, the movers, the shakers, the owners of these corporations that continually fund these negative movies that we see, these negative music that we receive. That's who I'm speaking about. Not necessarily the average, common, everyday person that might look like you or might not look like you. They're just caught up in the system. They're just, a lot of times people are dumb, deaf, and blind, or they're just trying to survive. But there are those who have done the studies and understand how the mind works and the role that images play on the mind, on affecting the self-image of the individual.
Hey, listen, neo-colonialism is real and alive. You have to remember that these corporations made their billions by exploiting African nations, by exploiting through slavery. That's how they gained the power, and that's how they are still keeping the power. They can't do it in your face now with slavery, but they can do it by controlling you. Let me give you an example. I have a friend. He owns a pharmaceutical company in Canada. And he went back to his home country in Africa and tried to gather up people to expand the company in his country. I believe he's Nigerian. And you know what? The people wouldn't have it. They didn't want to work together. They didn't trust. They sabotaged. They couldn't understand why. But guess what? He's married to a white woman. He sent the white woman, his wife, back to Nigeria to do the same thing and start the company. And you better believe it succeeded. They worked together, they fell in line, everybody did what they did to make sure the company succeeded. Explain that. Explain that. Biased, racially biased behavior. And this is between us, because if we cannot work together, if we continually mistrust each other, if we don't want to own and build on the land, we never gain power. And on top of that, we lose integrity. We start to turn on each other. We start to sin against each other. Righteousness can't prevail. It's going to take righteousness. It's going to take a pure heart. But we can't even get there because we are being pre-programmed. Our subconscious is being pre-programmed to turn against each other, to deal falsely with each other, to turn away from righteousness, because that's what it's going to take. Each individual building on self to get to a point where we can work together, trust, build, move in righteousness together. That's how we gain power, not by fighting, not by doing the same thing they did to us, but by building together in righteousness.
And the thing is, you have to love yourself. You have to have a genuine love for yourself, not as a narcissist, not in the way where I love myself and I just hate everyone else. I want to just see myself doing good and I want to see everyone else doing bad. No, I'm talking a healthy love where it's a mindset of abundance and knowing that because you have, you can give. If you don't have the love for yourself, a healthy love for yourself, you can't give it, right? So they don't want you, they be the system, the establishment, those who constantly give you the type of music that we hear over and over that's negative, the movies and the TV shows that we see that we constantly get that are negative, that promote dysfunction, degradation, this gives you a negative depiction of your image. Those who own that, who own those companies and promote that, that funds that, it is by design. They want to demoralize the individual, demoralize us. And understand, when it comes to demoralization, we're not just talking about a loss of courage, right? Having you lack the courage, but we're also talking about a removal of morals, values, and purpose. And if we remove the morals and the values and the purpose, we got a people that can be a lot easier to be controlled. We can almost basically turn you into a robot that lack the soul and spirit in a righteous way. So it's key. They want to demoralize us. And part of the way that they demoralize us are showing us these negative depiction of our image over and over and over in a very degraded state, in a very negative and inferior state. We're talking about it high science, advanced science, whether you want to call it occult, esoteric science, to basically put that story or that narrative through the image in your mind. And then guess what? Once that gets implanted in your mind deep enough, eventually you're going to live it out.
Listen, I feel you. They want us to embrace these negative behaviors, for sure. Because once we start to embrace it, that's when that spirit can attract to us. So they get us from we're young. It's in the culture. So a lot of people will say, hey, the devil made me do it. Or Satan's attacking me. But you have to embrace a certain energy, a certain spirit. And that's when you open the door. And I'll use Judas for example. Judas was in charge of the money. Right? Let me read John 12:4-6. Let's read it. Then saith one of his disciples, Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, which should betray him. Why was not this ointment sold for 300 pence and given to the poor? So he's asking, hey, what's going on? You're using this ointment, but we could have sold it. We could have made some money. This he said, not that he cared for the poor. Not that because he wanted to give the money to the poor, But because he was a thief and had the bag, he had the bag.
You want the bag? All right.
And bear what was put therein. So Judas was already a crook in his heart. He loved money. He loved money so much that he was taken from the bag.
Thief. Mm-hmm.
Straight thief. So he was this way. He embraced that life. Right? And I don't have to tell you about our culture, about black culture, and the things we embrace. But guess what now? Because he embraced it, there was an opening.
Mm-hmm.
There was an opening for Satan to come in, to work with him. This is a vessel I can work with. I jumped to Matthew 26:14-16. Then one of the 12, called Judas Iscariot, went unto the chief priests and said unto them, What will you give me? And I will deliver him unto you. And they covenanted with him for 30 pieces of silver.
Mm-hmm.
And from that time, he sought opportunity to betray him, Yeshua, that is.
We definitely see a lack of morals right there. Betrayal.
There you go.
Betrayal of someone who cared for him, his leader. Betrayal of the truth. Look what he just did right there.
So when you hear Yeshua, Jesus saying, Get thee behind me, Satan, in reference to that situation, it's automatic that people think that, hey, Satan is just there deciding to use Judas to do whatever he needed to do. But Satan found a vessel that already embraced that spirit and said, I can use this one to get the job done. I'm sure Yeshua could have stopped it at any point, but he knew what needed to be done. He knew what the prophecy was. But this is just a very important point, that it's what we embrace. And if we're being subconsciously prepared with these lack of morals, values, and principles, and then we wonder why things keep on happening to us, it doesn't make sense. You know, I believe I'm a good person, but you're doing things. And I see a lot of young people too, just doing things that are self-destructive. They know it's self-destructive, but they continue to do it almost like they don't have the control to stop themselves. And I've heard that, and it's a very powerful statement. Just,
what's that?
You know, they'll like getting into relationships with certain people that they know is wrong for them, right? Because you value material things like cars and money, right? You find yourself with someone now that can bring you those things that you value. And you know they're wrong for you. You know they're cheating. You know they're disrespectful. You know they're poisonous. You know that it's all wrong for you, but yet you put yourself in there because guess what? You value those material things. You don't truly value the relationship. You don't truly value the self-respect. You want the material things that you see on TV, that you see on the music videos. And now you're putting yourself in a self-destructive relationship and can't get yourself out. Right? It starts with those morals, values, and principles.
And that's why the self-image is so important. Having a positive self-image of how you see yourself. And obviously, it's going to be very important that you're nurtured that way from the beginning, you know, especially in the formative years, that your parents or those who's your custodian are actually nurturing you in a positive way. So if the foundation, if you started off already rocky and in your environment you're just seeing chaos, negativity, negative music, you know, depiction of your image in a very lowly, degraded way, chances are, even when you get older, you're going to keep on walking that path if there's not a change. And that's why there's a saying by the Jesuits I'm paraphrasing, that basically goes, give me the boy until the age of 7, and I'll show you the man. So how you're being basically groomed, conditioned at a very young age at the formative years, you will see that in the individual later on in life. So we have to understand the importance when it comes to the subconscious mind, when it comes to the images that we are taking in and emotionalizing, or are just internalizing, or just holding to. Are those images that we are taking in empowering us, or are they disempowering us? And we got to be very honest with ourselves, because like we've said over and over in this podcast, it's by design for them to depict these negative images of us over and over and over and over. Because ultimately, it's going to be a lot easier to control you. It's going to be a lot easier to have you in what I would consider a slave position, and others in a slave master position or a master position. So the images that you take in and that you even feed to your children, that you show to your children over and over, play a huge role in their development, and even in obviously your development. So that's very
big right
important
there.
to be aware of.
That's big right there, because there's a lot of aware parents that may teach their children, just like the example I gave of the charades. Teach their children their history, teach them culture, but the media that is in front of that child, the images, if you were to compare saying something and showing an image of something, the image is going to win out, because it's going to be embedded in the child's mind. So that becomes a big problem, and I think that awareness is important too. And I'm sure there's a lot of parents that are aware of that too. But that's why, instead of complaining about it, our media company, My Bible Culture Studio 7 Pictures, is designed to show positive imageries of our history, of our present, of our future. To connect with righteousness, connect with self-development. That is our goal and our mission, to make a positive change.
And the kingdom is within.
They didn't want to seek out salvation, therefore it's a lost generation. Israel, where did you go? Christ came to save your soul.